There is ammunition that doesn't explode on impact. It explodes at customs, in a container, in a warehouse in Hong Kong. Don't mention anything about China. That was the instruction a man sent via WeChat to his partner in New York. The business, according to the message itself, was lucrative. Millions of dollars in profit per order. The problem for them was that those millions depended on a lie. And lies, when we talk about semiconductors, end up in government files. This is the story of a chain that transported the raw material of artificial intelligence, a network that channeled microelectronics into Russia, where it was used in weapons, and then recycled the same mechanics to move the most coveted chips on the planet into China. At the center, a handful of people whose names appear in court records, and a race that isn't over yet. In March 2023, U.S. officials revealed what looked like a logistical nightmare. A secret supply chain was channeling semiconductors manufactured in the United States into Russia. According to the allegations, those chips ended up inside missiles and drones used against Ukraine. A tiny component, modest in cost in its simplest versions, and one that decides the fate of missiles and drones. The White House and the European Union had classified these components as common high-priority items, precisely because of their dual civilian and military use. The question wasn't whether that route existed, it was how much it was worth, who ran it, and why no one could shut it down. Because, while Washington imposed export controls, a network of middlemen turned a tiny component into the most contested smuggling operation on the planet. In July 2024, an official from the Department of Commerce offered a first measurement. Illicit transshipments to Russia through Hong Kong had fallen by 28%. Through mainland China, excluding Hong Kong, the drop was 19%. The 28% drop was good news, but it didn't mean the flow had stopped. On the contrary, the market was adapting. It looked like a victory, but it hit a double reading. The route hadn't been closed, it had become harder, riskier. For the smugglers, that wasn't a deterrent, it was an operating cost. The machine didn't stop, it just changed targets. A single figure helps put the market in perspective. According to the analysis organization C4ADS, NVIDIA goods worth $17.6 million were shipped through Hong Kong and China in 2023. $17.5 million, NVIDIA alone, in a single year. Demand didn't vanish, it reorganized. In June 2025, the think tank CNAS published a report focused on chip smuggling into China. Based on press reports and probabilistic models, it estimated that in 2024, the smuggling of artificial intelligence chips into China may have ranged from 10,000 to several hundred thousand units. The median hovered around 140,000 chips. The actual figure could be much higher. The H100 is one of the most advanced graphics processors in the world, essential for training next-generation artificial intelligence models. Exporting it without a license is a federal crime. A single smuggler handled an order of servers with 2,400 H100 processors, worth $120 million. Another facilitated one worth $103 million. In Singapore, authorities arrested 3 suspects for diverting artificial intelligence servers worth $390 million. These weren't official seizure figures, they were projections, but they marked the scale of a phenomenon that kept growing. Who was moving those chips? Court records started putting names to it. Matthew Kelly, a 49-year-old marketing executive from New York, didn't fit the profile of a warlord. However, in March 2024, Kelly sent a draft proposal over WeChat to move NVIDIA GPUs into China. He described the deal as lucrative, with millions of dollars in profit per order. His alleged partner, Stanley Yi Zhang, replied in all caps, "Don't mention anything about China." Zhang also asked to delete any reference. The screenshots, included in the court file, showed a man fully aware his business was illegal. What stood out about the file wasn't the technical complexity, it was the banality of the conversation. 2 men discussing profit per order as if they were talking about importing furniture. In March 2026, the documents alleged that Kelly, Zhang, and a third man, Tommy Shad English, 53, from Atlanta, conspired to commit smuggling and violate export controls. The U.S. government had until June to decide on formal charges. None have been convicted. These are allegations. But they reveal the mechanism: seemingly ordinary people, encrypted messages, disguised routes. Faced with that network, the Bureau of Industry and Security, the BIS, stopped treating smuggling as a minor offense. In the 12 months before May 2026, it announced nearly $420 million in combined sanctions and seizures for illegal smuggling of semiconductor technology to China. The figure includes the $252 million civil fine against Applied Materials, announced in February 2026, for illegally exporting semiconductor manufacturing equipment. The Applied Materials sanction was a turning point. It was no longer just about opaque middlemen. A manufacturer with decades of history was at the center of the storm. These were record figures. They were also an implicit admission. The problem wasn't at the border. It was in the global supply chain. Every server has a serial number, every shipment a manifest. And those digital breadcrumbs eventually lead back to the conspirators. The Taiwan case in May 2026 confirmed it. Taiwanese prosecutors suspect 3 individuals smuggled at least one shipment of NVIDIA AI chips to China after first exporting them to Japan. Those detained are accused of falsifying documents related to supermicro computer servers containing advanced NVIDIA chips. The sale of those products to China without a license is prohibited by the United States. The route wasn't direct. The chips left Taiwan with paperwork sending them to Japan, but the real destination was China. Every time one transit point closed, another opened. It was a game of whack-a-mole with semiconductors. The 3 detainees faced charges, but their capture didn't shut down the route. It simply forced the smugglers to find new transit points. The trail vanished into a cascade of documents and intermediary companies. A chip doesn't carry a flag. It doesn't declare its final destination. That's why the first line of defense wasn't a scanner, but a document. And documents get forged. There are semiconductor traceability technologies and systems, like end-to-end traceability, that allow tracking beyond customs documentation. Even so, that documentation can be as fake as a passport bought on the black market. Every shipment that shows up in a case file is one that failed. The successful ones don't generate paperwork. That's the paradox of surveillance. You only see what you intercept. As long as there's a buyer willing to pay millions for a handful of chips, someone will be willing to forge documents. The chip has no ideology. The chip just wants to circulate, because smuggling doesn't disappear. It only changes its name, its route, and its owner.